And welcome everybody to the glorious episode of the Signal Caller. I'm your host Dwayne Douglas, and I'm with Solo Lopez here, the Solo Lopez on Twitter. So check him out there, and also I'm at PORSBR is my Twitter handle. Check me out. Also, there is a young man named Nonsense who is on our who was on it. He just goes by Nonsense. Typical the typical East Coast. But and so on Sunday mornings at 11 o'clock Pacific time, we do a little draft thing every week, and this week we're gonna do some stuff on running back. So check us out there on Twitter Spaces. Also the Put on Raiders podcast. Myself and Ryan Holmes, and then also you have myself, and sometimes I have Coach B on there too as well when he has time to do the Student Body Right USC podcast. USC is the recruiting is on fire. This is going the 2026 class is the best in California's history. Going to be coming out here. You're going to see some great players coming out of that one, and USC right now has the number one recruiting class in the country. So we'll see if they can hold on to that ranking for that 2026 class. But let's go right to the linebackers here. So we talk about quarterbacks, talk about that stuff too. But now let's get into guys who are chasing these quarterbacks down and trying to make plays. There's a lot of there's some. This is not the great class of linebackers, but you can't find some players in here. I think this is the reason why I was kind of worried about the even though Spillane turned out to be something that that we were so surprised with. Now you're in a situation where you kind of need a linebacker here, maybe in this draft. I don't know if
Not a good draft to need a linebacker.
it's not a great draft for it, but I do think, like I said, there's some names in here, some guys who can develop into something. Yeah,
Yeah.
develop something here. So who's a guy who's a couple of linebackers you like in this draft?
Well, really, I mean, I think there's a gigantic gap. If you want to call Jalen Walker like the linebacker there, I think that he's really the only one, in my opinion, that I think is
To
worthy
be
of taking in the.
to be special.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. So he's the only guy I would even consider taking in the top 2 rounds, in my opinion. I think it's really shallow. I think it's a rough draft, but I want to do the majority work on him because I think he's the only legitimate possibility that the Raiders will be able to get in the first 2 rounds. I don't think that there is another guy, honestly, in the top couple rounds that the Raiders should even like consider. And I know that sucks because we have a Landon Roberts, and really that's it. We lost Divine Diablo and Spillane.
Mhm.
And so Landon Roberts is the only other guy. And let's face it, I mean, he's a 31-year-old guy that's a part-time starter, and you're going to give him the reins of the defense to play right behind Max Crosby and that defensive line. And I'm skeptical that he's up to the task for it. So needing a linebacker in this draft is tough, but I really and someone mentioned this earlier in the draft season that they felt like Jalen Walker would be a guy that they could take at 6. I would not consider him there at that situation, but I think that he might be the only one that's there. I honestly really believe that.
He may have the biggest upside of anybody there at that point, and then like I mean, you could do a lot with him. Like he is very
Yeah.
talented. He's a special athlete. So, and I think the Raiders are going to be in a situation where all three. I think quite possibly people are going to say no, 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 but we'll see. Like quite possibly you could be, especially if the Ole Miss. I'll probably look up the Ole Miss pro day while we're doing the show. But if he blows up the pro day the same way he did the combine, I think it's a possibility that Jackson Dart could go in the top 10. But I think right now Jackson Dart definitely going to go in the first round. No
Yeah.
question, no question about it. So the Raiders linebacking core, as if they had a game tomorrow, would be Amari.
Eichenberg.
It will be I Amari Burney. Let's see, we got Landon Roberts. We know that one. We should just get Amari Cooper back because we have Amari Burney and Amari Gainer. So we'll have that 3 Amaris on the team. Tommy Ackenberg, who didn't really see much time at all. You got Brandon Smith. This is just not. This is just like
I mean, presently
it's
constructed,
not
that's the
good.
worst linebacking core in the NFL.
Exactly.
You
So
can't say that. You can't even like dispute that.
yeah,
I mean, right now the Raiders have the worst linebacking core in the NFL. They have the worst running back core in the NFL. Like it's tough sledding right now. It's tough sledding when there's a team that's full of holes that's not spending on any money to get to bring those guys back or go out and venture out to get some of those guys. So it's tough for the draft right now. Like I said, I don't think linebacker is a great. It's not great draft right now to need a linebacker at all.
No, I do feel like I mean, like I said, there are a couple of names that I want to kind of go over to kind of talk about that. But if you want to go over Jalen Walker, so what kind of comps you have for Walker here? Who what
So
kind of what kind of player? How do you see him envision being used in the National Football League?
I think that guy. I think Walker specifically is going to be in a ferocious tackler in the front seven. I really think that he's going to be like the traditional sideline to sideline guy. I know a lot of people think that he's like the next Michael Parsons. You can move him down to pass rusher. You can pass rush from the middle of the field in that regard, or pass rush from obviously on the outside on the weak side position as well for a linebacker as a stand up. You can pass rush from a lot of different angles if you have the athleticism to do so. He has the athleticism. But I think if you see a guy that's going to get the green dot on his forehead and be the guy in that situation, you're going to be
Yes,
able to
yeah.
find someone who's going to be a special talent in that regard. I don't value linebacker as much as other people do. I'm not going to compare anybody to Michael Parsons in this regard. It's like Abdul Carter is getting that comparison, and like I've heard the Michael Parsons comparison with Jalen Walker. There's no way that I'm giving those guys that type of comparison. It's just not the case for me. But I think they can be a high tier tackling linebacker, a guy that's really sideline to sideline that uses his athleticism and his leverage to get on to blow running plays up. And it feels like, in my opinion, the Raiders are building a run defense type of team. It feels like that. They have two gigantic safeties that are I don't want to call them box safeties. That's not fair, but it's kind of what they are. Like I wouldn't rely on those guys in pass coverage. So they're building a big physical defense. And if they took Jalen Walker in that vein for that scheme for Patrick Graham, it feels like it was fit as well as adding to the traits of his athleticism that he has. I don't know if he can pass coverage in the NFL. I know it's an essential trait, especially in with the safeties evolving into what they have. But in terms of his athleticism, I think he's a scheme fit in a lot of different places. If you give him the green dot, I think he's character wise, he's going to be up in the upper echelon of your character guys in that regard. He's a very, very, very good prospect. I think he's going to hit. I think he's going to find a home run type of environment for him in the 11 to 22 range. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, he like I said, he like listen, it's just Georgia's defense. You already know that you're going to get an opportunity to get a guy who's a phenomenal, for phenomenally gifted player. I really, some folks have him comp to Trenton Simpson from Clemson. Because as far as like kind of players you can kind of visualize if you haven't seen him play, but you pop on the tape, he's just phenomenal. He really he
Yeah.
really he really is. I mean, it's kind of like
It seems like he understands how to balance his football IQ with his athleticism. And not a lot of guys have
yes,
one or
that's
that
true.
have
That's
that.
it.
It's
Yeah,
they don't have
exactly.
the unison together at that moment. They develop into that, but it looks like he's already ready set to be like, I understand this and I'm going to use what athletic gifts I do have to blow the plays up.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a great way of putting it. It's more like some people are in that process of where they might be thinking about it, but
Mhm.
he has it. Like he's ready to go and kind of tear down on defense. I forgot who they were playing, but it could have been Alabama. I'm not sure. But his job was to mirror the mirror and like and track the quarterback, the mobile quarterback, and he was just like it was like a cat, versus a mouse. He just was
Yeah.
like Brett just
It was
waiting,
yeah.
waiting, waiting, waiting. And when the opportunity came, it was just like, boom, you're going down. So he was phenomenal in that. So there is a big difference between Jalen and everybody else. Like Jalen is a freak of nature.
It feels like that.
It
Yeah.
feels like that, but yeah, he is definitely. But if you look at but the other guys I might bring up are going to be guys who are going to be maybe depth pieces or guys who can down two a year 2 years down the road might be
Yeah.
starting on the team. But yeah, I think he's he is by far the best guy I've seen
Which
in these
is kind of
drafts.
strange considering the gap is so far at that position. It feels like a real down year for linebacker, but I think that's a cliff. I think the talent level falls off a cliff after Jalen Walker. I really do.
Yeah, we'll see. Also in the later rounds, Oregon linebacker Jeffrey Bassa, like him, leader, moved from
Aggressive,
aggressive as hell,
aggressive. Yeah,
aggressive as hell. Yes,
mean and aggressive.
he will
Love those
let
types of
you
players.
he will let you know what's going on in the game.
Yeah,
And then for him he made that transition like kind of like Brian Urlacher from safety
yeah,
to linebacker. He can wear the green dot. He's going to be a work in progress as far as the NFL goes. But I do think a year from now, or maybe a first year in year one down the road, if somebody gets hurt, or if you place them in a starter and you're willing to get through the aches and pains of the
yeah,
beginning, then you can see him
yeah. The growing pains of a
flourish.
young guy like that.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I do like him a lot. I mean,
How high would you take him?
I'm thinking. I mean, he's been most boards. He's been like in the 150s. So like, what's
Yeah,
that? What's that? The fourth round, third
that's
round.
like late fourth.
Yeah, it's like fourth round, fifth round. So yeah, so I think he could. I think he's a guy who could end up playing well for somebody. So like
Yeah,
I think because leadership, I think leadership matters. I mean him being on a high level team and just being in control of that defense. Oregon there's a lot of stars on that defense. High price stars. Philip Knight takes care of his boys. Um, so I do like that part of it, and I mean I think he can definitely be a guy who helps a football team down the road.
yeah,
A guy who I talked about the ability to mirror mobile quarterbacks and just be in like just assignment football. Cody Simon from Ohio State is probably a recency bias because of the fact that he's on Ohio State, and we saw a whole lot of Ohio State in the playoff. Uh,
yeah,
Again, a guy like I said, not maybe not a day one starter, but a guy who could
yeah.
down the road become a good off ball linebacker for you on your team, and he just understood where to be and tackled very well as well for Ohio State. Um,
I'll give you the name that I feel like is going to be one of those linebackers that gets drafted by a linebacker team and he ends up being unbelievable for them is the Stutzman from Oklahoma.
yes, but so I think I'll give a team, but yeah, but he is
Oh
like
no,
yeah,
like the team would be like Baltimore or
yeah,
it would be Dallas, it would be Pittsburgh. One of those real like you find linebackers there, and they just know how to play. They
they
know what
grow
they're
much.
doing.
Yeah, some franchises, unlike unlike ours, kind of just grow that position on trees. Like they
Yeah.
always, no matter what. So I mean, no matter what year it is, they have a decent linebacker, a decent to really good linebacking core.
Yeah.
But
Like
they follow.
imagine if the Patriots and Mike Vrabel get their hands on Danny on Stutzman in like the fourth round. And they're like, let's just take this guy because he's been so good for them. Like he's like
Yeah,
they love his character. They don't necessarily love all the tangible stuff and the athleticism and whatnot, but they think that this guy's a football player. I mean, imagine if they just grab him. You would think that was could be a good pick if he's going to be coached by Mike Vrabel or Mike Tomlin or John Harbaugh or one of these situations there.
yeah, no question about it. Chris Paul Jr. linebacker from Ole Miss. Like now, here's the
Um,
thing. Here's the thing. It's a tough pill to listen. Like must be a tough pill to swallow for Lane Kiffin because again, whether it's Chris Paul Jr. or Amos or your guy Prince
yeah,
or like I mean or Walter Nolan, like
they're all leaving.
dude, they're not only are all living, but damn, wow, how they miss out on the playoff this year. Like that was
Yeah.
really that's a tough one. Those lost,
Oh yeah, no, I
yeah,
got you.
those
Yeah,
two
that's a tough
losses,
one.
those two losses to Florida and Kentucky, I must be eating at him because he might have had the only team that could physically physically play with Ohio State. Like you know what I mean?
And if we had
Yeah.
gotten Jackson Dart in the playoff, I mean,
It would
we
have
could have
changed it. It
really,
would have changed everything. It would change
it would have
everything. Yeah,
literally
yeah,
changed everything.
yeah.
Yeah,
It would have. It would have. But yeah. So, but like I said, I think he's a good, good, a good linebacker. Can make some plays. Reminds a lot of people of Dayon Henley from Washington State.
Yeah,
Nick Bolton, also some comparison to Nick Bolton as well too. So, and these guys are like I said, if you get them, like what can accelerate them is if they get drafted to a team. You mentioned like linebacker schools or NFL franchises that like that can kind of like that scheme wise push them in the right direction.
yeah,
And then once they find their footing in the right direction, then boom, it takes off, and everybody says, "How can
yeah,
you let Chris Paul Jr. go?" And
yeah,
he looks so stupid,
yeah.
like stuff like that. So that happens a lot when good teams with good schemes find their players and
Hmm.
let them just go ahead and go and become really great. So I like Chris Paul Jr. Let's see here. One more that I like would be Demetrius Knight Jr. Florida. I'm not Florida State. South Carolina. If you're looking for an up and coming college football team, that maybe you don't have a team and you just want to look for one, I think that is a team that I would say that's on the rise. They played everybody tough last year in the SEC. They're really
They're
coming.
really fast and physical. That's the tape that I see. Like they just seems like they're building a
Yeah.
team that's really fast and really mean.
And that quarterback might be a quarterback who's draftable if he continues to progress.
Yeah,
So another linebacker. Obviously, we do all linebackers on the show, but a good tackler, can move. Can play multiple spots at linebacker in the National Football League. Had a decent combine, so I would say, I mean, that's a guy who I would definitely look at as well too. If you're looking at, maybe third, maybe fourth, fifth round, sixth round, whatever. But he's going to be a guy who I think is going to be who could possibly be a good NFL prospect as well. So,
yeah.
um,
After the third round, there's going to be a pool of guys where people are just like, I'm going to take the best traits off of this guy, and that's why I'm drafting him, and I'm going to ignore everything else because everybody past Jalen Walker is going to have something that holds them back from being like an elite talent. And so it's going to be those teams that are linebacking schools, that are going to be like, I'm going to take a chance on this guy, and I'm going to bring him in. I'm going to bring in Chris Paul Jr. And I'm going to add him to the my linebacker room of Trent Simpson and Roquan Smith, and we're going to see what we can get out of them in this regard. Like you're going to see that type of situation.
and if you have a guy sitting there who's just like just a guy who just gets the job done, kind of linebacker. I mean, he's not great, he's not spectacular, but he's not gonna leave you. He won't make a spectacular play. But he'll just be solid for you.
Yeah,
These group of linebackers, I think, will be a good group to bring in because they can
yeah,
just learn. There's no pressure to play immediately. They can learn, play those special teams, get hit people a little bit, and then come in a year from now or late in the season as well.
what did
So
John Gruden say as special teams war daddy?
uh, John
Shout
Gruden.
out to Barstool.
Yeah, dude. John Gruden. Listen, John Gruden says a lot. I mean, now he's doing YouTube unboxing every day. That's great.
Yeah.
It seems because teams are sending him all the different things. So here's my.
No.
It's funny. Somebody said something about him being. Oh, he got. I was in a space that somebody said. Well, he got. What's that word again? Like when you set up. He got set up. Whatever with the
Oh, he
emails.
got set up. Yeah.
I was like, well, I was like, but yet I was like, but you know what? He did write him. And then the guy was like, oh yeah, he did write him. Um, so my top ten here for linebackers, we got Jalen Walker, Jahad Campbell, Demetrius Knight Jr. Number three, Barrett Carter from Clemson, Carson Schwarzenegger from that four down. Sorry, UCLA. And then we got Chris Paul Jr., Ole Miss, Stuntsman, who you mentioned, Danny Stuntsman,
Danny Stussman.
from
Sounds like a linebacker. He just does.
yes, exactly, because he stunts men. So I got it. So Oklahoma. Then we got Samuel Mordon Jr. from Georgia, Jeffrey Bassa from Oregon, and then Cody Cody Simon from Ohio State. So
I'm gonna keep my eye on Bassa a lot moving
I
forward.
I just he just reminds me. He just he reminds me of he reminds me of a little bit of Morrison. Just
Oh, okay. Kirk
just
Morrison.
yeah,
Yeah.
just a mill, just the guy who takes charge. He runs the squad like he's
Yeah.
he just he run your defense and you don't have to really sweat and
Feels like another
worry
one of
about
those
it.
positions where you can find a serviceable guy that's it's gonna be a stabilizing force for your defense. You don't need to rotate a bunch of guys in and out. That's why I think the letting Spillane go was kind of a mistake because he had run Patrick Graham's offense perfectly for the last 2 years, and he is massively overproduced and overperformed his contract that they brought him in like
And
extensively.
and I love like listen like people think that we just want to be right, and I can tell you like when the Raiders got especially when I got information from people who like watch them play every day from Pittsburgh, like I just people just didn't like I didn't like the move at all.
Yeah,
When they end up getting him, and he ended up coming to the Raiders and being a really good solid like he's that guy like I talked about the veteran good linebacker makes plays here and there, not spectacular, but like I mean,
it's
but
really tough to argue that he wasn't the best defensive player over the last 2 years for the Raiders. Max Crosby was hurt over these last couple of years.
yeah.
And Max Crosby, when healthy, is an elite talent, but it's hard to argue that Spillane wasn't the best player on that defense over the last couple of
He
years.
was so
I mean,
consistent. He was so consistent. He was
he
so
showed up and he
consistent.
played
Man.
every single day, and he got turnovers, and he got the QB hits, and he got tackles for losses, and he was really really good for the Raiders. He was really good for the Raiders, and I was wrong as well. I hated the move. I still thought that they, going into that they had, they hadn't addressed the linebacking core in that situation, and I still felt like that was a bottom five unit. To be fair, it still was a bottom five unit, even with Spillane, who had overproduced in that amount of time. But that's just because the Raiders don't commit a lot of assets to that, whether if that's through the draft or through that free agency. They just really don't, and they haven't for a long time.
Yeah, I haven't. Yeah, and yeah. Jay Cooper reminds us of
Shout out
that.
Jay Cooper.
Yeah, every single day about
He's all about getting Jalen Walker in the first round if they trade
yeah.
back.
They should, yeah. Well, they should. If they can, takes two to tango to get a trade done. But hopefully, if they can't get a quarterback, they can get some more value and add some picks,
one Hundred
um,
percent.
to this core because as many shots as you want to get as many shots as you possibly can to improve your football team.
Especially when you're not spending money in the offseason.
Of course, hey, well, yeah, that's it. I should have. What I wanted to do, I'll do it next time. Is I want to see what Seattle did in 2010, 2011 in free agency, those 2 years.
Yeah,
Because I want to see I want to see if it's more of it because then you can kind of see if they didn't really do anything those years.
you can see the plan.
You can see that like this is another situation where the head coach is kind of
Pete Carroll might have a lot more authority than we anticipate.
guiding the young
Yeah,
the GM.
the young
Spy
Tech,
Yeah, Spy Tech.
Squire Tech.
Yeah, see, Spy Tech sounds like a James Bond villain. No matter what
He
anybody
really
says,
does.
he does.
He really does.
All right,
Tech Industries, maybe a sci-fi villain.
Spy Tech Industries. Yeah.